In this video, you're going to see how to add materials for your students to see to your course. One of the things you might want to do is you might want to go up here and click on this and you can edit the picture and you can pull in a picture from somewhere else that is specific to your class instead of this generic one that automatically comes up with any class. You also have this option here where this is where you're adding the actual materials. And you can see some things here on how to do it. It's giving you some ideas here. The thing I would suggest is that you get your classes organized. Let me show you this one that I have that is currently in session. Notice here that I have just lots of different folders. And this is a great way to organize it. You don't want to just start putting a bunch of assignments out there because this area right here gets too lengthy and gets really confusing. So what you want to do instead is to organize it a little more specifically. And so when you're here, you're just going to go, the first thing you're going to do is think about how you want to organize it. Do I want it to have unit folders and then have chapters within those units? Do I want to organize it by chapters? Do I, just what makes sense for your particular class? And that would be, just organizing it so that the students can find things easily. So the first thing you're probably going to do is add a folder. And to add a folder, you're just going to give it a name. And we're just going to call that new folder because I'm not really going to be using that. And you can choose any one of these lovely colors here. And if you wanted to give it a description, you can do that also. You can say this is a folder that you need to open. This is a folder that you need to look at everything in. You can tell the students something to do with it, or you can just say this is a folder about whatever. That's totally up to you and how you're organizing things. I don't usually use dates on my folders. I usually use dates on my assignments, and I would definitely encourage you to do that as well because that helps the students so much, but it's not necessary to really date a folder. It automatically defaults to being visible. If you would like to hide that folder either before or after you're using it, then you just change it to hidden. You can also give it a date range if you prefer to. Right now we'll just create one. And so it opens up. If I need to edit something I did in here, then I go here and I can say edit it and go in and change something that I just did. If I'm opening the new folder, then I have that same add materials option that I had before, and I have lots of different things. The one primarily that you're going to use is add assignment. I would say to try to use it almost exclusively. The other one you may want to use is add discussion, and then of course you may have some objective testing and things that you might want to do on Schoology and those. These others you can put on there as resources, and that's great if you're going to draw attention to them during class. But they don't come up in the feed of what's due today, so sometimes students overlook them. But if you've got a good resource that you all want to look at rather than printing out a handout, you can obviously put it on here, and that's what we'd want to encourage you to do so students can take notes on it on their iPad or whatever they want to do. And then you might want to use one of these where you're coming up with something that's not an assignment. But probably 90% of the time I use add an assignment for everything rather than those others because I can add links and things to the assignment and I can actually tell students what I want them to do with it. So the assignment might just be Chapter 1 of whatever it is I'm doing, and then I might want to tell what that information is, and then I can come down here and type in this description section. I think this is not necessarily a description. I use it more for directions of what to do with this assignment. Open this link and write a summary. Giving them detailed instructions. It can be a 2-sentence thing here, or it could be a 2-paragraph thing, depending on how lengthy and how in-depth the assignment is that you're going to give them. Because I teach online and blended classes, mine tend to be longer than yours probably will in a traditional class, where you're going to be there to answer questions and explain your expectations. So you have your directions is what I would say here. And then this is if you want to add a file. If you have a file on your computer and you want to link it there, then you can pull up something and say, okay, I want this file, and open, and I'm going to place that in to my assignment. Please remember that some of your students will have iPads and some of your students will have MacBooks. Not every student will be able to open every kind of document. So, for example, do not use Word documents. Word documents are not going to be able to be opened on the iPad or or in some cases on a MacBook. Instead, you would want to upload something as a PDF, or the way that most all of us now do is we use Google Drive for that, because it makes it so easy to be able to connect whatever you're doing with it. Here we see you can add a link. This is the URL. You can type in the URL or copy and paste it, more likely. Give it a title just so that it makes sense. That's especially important if you're going to have more than one URL and you want to direct them what to look at, what to do. So very simple to do that. You can connect Google Docs here if you've got that URL if you want to. Another way is resources. You have a resource folder right within a Schoology. You have a personal one, you have a group. If somebody else teaches your same class and y'all are sharing some information, then you can create a group and you can get share assignments or information there. Or apps. One of the apps that's available is Google Drive. And so you can install your Google Drive right within Schoology, so that if I've got a document that I want to connect, I can click on it and then I can choose to import the file or import the link, whichever I want to do, and it's importing it. And then when I do that, it's here for them to see. So they have the option of being able to, that option as well. So it's very easy to use Google Drive. If you're not in the habit of using Google Drive, I would encourage you to get in the habit of it. Your things that you are working with, I would encourage you to move them to Google Drive. It makes it super easy when you're using Schoology. You definitely want to use due dates. Due dates tell the student when it's due, and it causes it to populate in a side panel over here on the news feed for the student, and allows them to know what they have due and what they have upcoming in the next few days. So definitely put in due dates. It automatically defaults to 11:59 p.m. That's up to you if you want to change that. I would leave it probably to at least 10 p.m. Then the amount of points, it defaults to 100 points. Obviously, some things will be less than that. You're welcome to change that to whatever it needs to be. You do want to, a lot of times, choose graded. Right now, it's saying ungraded. I like to grade in Schoology. I think you'll find it super easy to grade in Schoology, and I think you'll enjoy using that. So you can create categories. It gives you some options. You may have a grades category, and you may have like a test category or whatever, and however you want to do it. Grading options allows you to choose when it needs to be, and this one is defaulting to the first quarter because that's the next one coming up. And so there might be a time that you need to check that. It might actually be on the wrong one, but generally it's going to default to the correct thing. Okay, also on the options, you can individually assign things to different students if you need to do that. This is where you would align learning objectives. Some of our teachers have their learning objectives in Schoology and actually align them. That's up to you. It's not required at this point. It does allow you to see if they're mastering concepts, so that's a nice option. Submissions enabled is one that automatically defaults to, and that means that the student can send something to you, and you'll probably want to do that. Visible to students, you probably want to leave it there unless you're not ready for the assignment to be seen. Then you just click that, it hides it until you're ready. You'll have to go back and tell it to make it visible. And then you create it. And when you create it, it comes up in the middle feed here. So in your course here, you've got some things listed in this folder. this is what the first thing that I want my students to do. So that's how you add an assignment. As I said, it's the one that you probably are going to use most frequently. We'll stop there and let you get started.